Okay, then we can multiple models then.
No. Adding more doesn't make it any less of a dichotomy. We don't need...
Yes, it does.
Oh, right,
It's not a
bye-bye,
dichotomy.
asshole.
You're an idiot.
I was
You
in the
are
middle of a
utter
sentence,
moron, aren't you,
asshole.
Nathan? You're an utter...
Right, you're
you
just
can't
pissing me
deny
off.
you're a moron.
Get out. You're
It's
just raising my blood pressure unnecessary.
Really?
You're only here to obfuscate. Sod off. I run the show. If you can't stop talking while I'm talking, you can get out. Right, we don't need a false dichotomy. Suddenly, because we can see something, we need to analyse models. And I'm saying why, and he obfuscates.
So,
give us an answer from chat if you like, Rumpus. I'll ask the same question. Why do we suddenly need to assess it versus your model? Or any model, for that matter. We just see it, it's just there. Why would we need to assess it and compare it to your reification fallacy?
Nathan, as much as I agree with what you've just done, the downside of what you've just done is that we don't get to see how much behind the curve of the earth this mountain should be, and then we didn't get to see how he's going to wriggle his way out.
How dare you? So you're going to throw the same exact thing that Rumpus is doing in my face as well? How much we should see? What do you mean?
No,
how much
I'm
we should
saying
see?
that we didn't get to see the benefit of Rumpus wiggling his way around it.
That's my point.
Was not gonna
That's
get
not
it.
my
He was
point.
never gonna get
That's
that.
not my point. How much we should see. That's what he will do with his model. Assess how much we should see. Well, how dare anybody come to me with a model and say this model says we should see this or we shouldn't see that. How dare he? That's the point of my question. And when he got to that point, he rumpused the living shit out of me. Now, don't get me wrong, Anthony. I understand that you want to beg the question with these people. I want the audience to understand implicitly that assessing what we see and is observably there and comparing it to what a model says we should or shouldn't see is absolutely benign. It's pointless. It's unnecessary. It's using a reification fallacy to assess what we just see. It's not necessary. My point, the overriding point, which I'll never get to make if Rumpus is on the panel, is our argument for this observation, and any observation, is simple. We see it because it's there. Now that's the end of our argument. He needs to come along and first justify why he's begging the question. He's saying I need to compare it to my model. Why? That's the whole point. You're not here to beg the question, Rumpus, and automatically assume you've got a model that is valid that we need to question whether or not it matches. That's not reality. I've got photos for that. Whether or not it matches your stupid little ball is inconsequential to reality. It matters not. And when I ask why you justify it, you say, well, we want to see which one's right. What do you mean which one's right? We just see it. That's our whole argument. And you've got nothing to come back against that with. Our argument as flat earthers is the most simple, simplistic argument you can have. Why do we see it? Well, because we've opened our eyes and had a look. That's why we see it. Now, according to Rumpus, we need to compare that to something. A globe model. Because he says we live on a sphere. His model dictates how much we should or shouldn't see of this mountain. And I'm absolutely tired of it. Why are we begging the question? I asked him if he had proof of R. I jokingly said, how long will it take for Rumpus to beg the question and assume his outcome? That's a logical fallacy. To assume one's outcome is a fallacy. And I asked the question, how long before Rumpus begs the question? Well, immediately. I must beg the question. Oh, that's not a justifiable excuse. That's not a reason to be fallacious in your argument, asserting it that you must. Sorry, why are you going to use a logical fallacy here? Oh, well, because we've got a false dichotomy. That's not an answer either. So I'm then trying to pin him down on this stuff, and the people around me, they want the brainwashing. They want to assume first that they're on a sphere and see where that sphere doesn't work. We're not on a sphere. There's nothing to suggest we're on a sphere. Zero. Nothing. The only way to assert you're on a sphere is to first assume you're on a sphere. And when I ask how long before he assumes we're on a sphere, then, well, immediately. And if I do it immediately and forcefully and don't let you point out that this is, by definition, fallacious reasoning, then I'll get away with rumpusing the rest of the show. And hopefully people will empathise when I get kicked out for not shutting the hell up. He doesn't like these points. It's fallacious reasoning. It's fallacious to assume your outcome. It's called begging the question. So when Sly Sparkane doesn't seem to get it because he can't listen to the name of the calculator, then that's why he exerts his fallacious reasoning on you, the audience. That's why you get deceived. Well, that's more fool you. Fool me once, shame on me. Well, you, the Muppets in the audience, are being fooled continually. And we're pointing it out to you. Logical fallacy, begging the question, assuming your outcome. Well, if Rumpus is going to come on and say, right, this observation, let's see how much it compares to my assumption that we're on a sphere. Oh, well, I don't care. I don't assume we're on a sphere. What do you mean you've got a bloody model? So what? Does that mean anything in reality? Well, no, that's another logical fallacy. It's called... Oh my God, this is your favourite fantasy, Anthony. You go on about this all the time. The reification fallacy. To assert that something that is a model is actually your real world. It isn't. On screen now, that's real world. That's a picture, perspective inclusive, I might add. Well, these Muppets, we're handing their asses on a plate at the moment. They've excluded perspective. That's how they've done it. That's how they've tricked you. The simple trick of removing perspective and calling it curvature. And how do they do it? Well, they do it with a model. That's how they do it. You're into 3 steps along the line of the begging the question fallacy if you're looking at the model, and that's what Rumpus wants to do immediately. Well, no. I'm not tolerating it anymore. I made that clear at the end of the Isle of Man model assertion that's still not come to fruition. Has anybody seen this Isle of Man model of the north end of the Isle of Man that you've got from your belly, Anthony?
No.
Right. Well, I said to him quite specifically, that is the last opportunity to beg the question here. I'll let you have this one, Rumpus. You can beg the question with this particular model. Model in your nonsense fantasy of refraction superlooming with Anthony on his belly catching the Isle of Man at 34 miles. Has he? Has he? Hell. He just wants to come on, rumpus the living shit out of this hangout and demand that he gets to beg the question here. No. Don't you know the rules yet, you fool? You don't get to beg the question here. You don't just get to talk over the host indefinitely and assert that you're being cut off. Yes, I am stopping you from using fallacious reasoning. You don't get to beg the question, assuming automatically that we're on a sphere and going from there. That don't happen on this show. I'm afraid not, you fool. So... for anybody who feels that I've been unfair to Rumpus, tell him to sort out his fallacious reasoning. We do shows on logical fallacy to make you understand that it's not sound reasoning to assume one's outcome. Precisely what Rumpus did the moment I asked how long it would take to do so. Immediately is the answer. Now, if this doesn't set off alarm bells for the audience, then you are simply stupid. You don't understand what we have explained to you. That's fine. You can believe the lies of somebody who can talk longer and louder than everybody else on the panel when they assert that they must beg the question. No, you don't have to. You can be free of these shackles. You can be free of the deceit. You don't have to use fallacious reasoning. You can believe your own bloody eyes when you see a mountain at 80 plus miles and say, there it is, I see it because it's there. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. I don't need a model to tell me what I do and don't see. Anyway, my lecture over. I'm sorry to lecture you specifically, Anthony, but you love to beg the question. I thought I was getting somewhere with Ranty the other day. You know what I mean?
That's okay, but if you do want to see what the results of begging the question is, go to the video and watch it on Sandra's channel. It's worthy of a good shout out because she does beg the question and shows what it shouldn't do, and obviously it does it. So even though Nathan is tired of it, and I do agree with him, I'm not disagreeing with him. It's just worth crediting Sandra for taking the time to do all the homework on it, and shout outs to her. So make sure you go to her channel, you like and subscribe, because she's doing the work that basically we use on the show. So massive shout outs to Sandra, and obviously the Earth is obviously and observably flat.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll let Rumpus beg the question again. If he keeps up his side of the agreement and actually does as he has said. Last time we agreed, we all agreed. This is the last opportunity to beg the question. Where's your model? model out this observation that you specifically, Anthony, you did. Has he done so? No. Well, that flat out makes him a liar. I don't want liars here. Don't lie to us, Rumpus. You said you'd produce it. You haven't. That was your opportunity to beg the question, not come here and talk over me and assert that you must beg the question with this new observation at ridiculous distances that you absolutely shouldn't see if there was a curve in the way, which there is not, ever. We don't observe any curve. You're going to study the obstruction and call curvature an obstruction at the horizon. That's what you're going to do, whilst simultaneously begging the question. Then you'll introduce 7/6 of the radius, terrestrial refraction. Then you'll massage that up and call it superlooming. I'm absolutely tired of this crap. For the people watching that don't get it yet, you're all being deceived. This kind of crap is how you get lied to. Layer upon layer upon layer of utter nonsense. And you guys gobble it up, you baller retards. Yum num 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 num. Really? Superlooming, you say? Mathematically valid? Num 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 num. Oh, right, well, the Earth's still a ball then. Thank you, Rumpus. No, the
Nathan.
guy's just fallacious.
Nathan, that rant after you kick out after Rumpus was kicked out, that rant that you had, like 5 minutes rant, was one of the best in a long time. People is agreeing in the chat. Somebody please crop that video of 5 minutes rant of Nathan and upload it everywhere. It was awesome. Thank you.